Welcome back to Learn With Us here at MPB. I am Miss Killen. This is Algebra 2. We're in Unit 5 now. We're looking at linear equations and inequalities and functions, and today we're looking at direct and inverse variations. We've got ECD2. I can identify the quantities in real-world scenario problems. So let's go ahead and look and see what we've got going. So some new vocabulary that we really need to make sure that we're understanding. The first one is direct variation. Now this direct variation is a relationship. Everything in this Algebra 1 so far has been about a relationship. So this relationship tells us that it's between the two variables, my independent and my dependent, or my x and my y variables, and it's where one is being multiplied to the other at a constant rate. Now, we've learned what the constant rate is. That's my constant of proportionality, and we've seen this before. And that is our direct variation. But what about our inverse variation? Our inverse variation tells us where one of my variables is going up, the other variable is going down, or vice versa, where one of them is going down, the other one is going up. And we can see those shown with our general form, where this k is my constant of proportionality. So those are our four main vocab that we're really going to look at in this lesson. So let's see. It says the cost of bowling is $4 shoes and $4.75 for the games. If you were going to pay for your group's shoe rental when there are 4 in your group, how much would you pay? Well, it tells us as we read our passage, $4 for your shoes, and there's 4 in your group. Obviously, 4 times 4 gives you what? Excellent. So it's going to cost me $16 for my shoes. Okay, so this graph shows us the relationship between the cost of shoes and the number of shoes being rented. So one pair of shoes costs $4, 2 pair of shoes, $8, so forth and so on. We can see that linear function. It says write an equation for this total cost. So let's us look. I've got the C of my T, which would be my total cost. Now, how did we say in previous lessons that we would write this equation? Well, it tells me for each shoe is 4. So that means that's going to help us with our change from each point. We know that change to be our slope. So 4 times whatever our number of shoes are, and then no matter what, I've got to pay this $4.75. So that is going to be my equation for this total cost of bowling. Now it says, finish filling in the table with the values from the graph. Now when we look at this graph, I have 1, 4, which is 1 pair of shoes, $4, 2 pair of shoes, $8, 3, 12, 4, 16, and so forth. So we see that every time we go up $4, we go over a pair of shoes. So if I was looking for my 9 pair of shoes, my 9 pair of shoes would be right here. So for my 9 pair of shoes, what would be my amount? I would go up 4 more and over, and that would be 36. So for 9 pair of shoes, it would cost me $36. That's exactly right. We consider this an example of direct variation. Because our x values are increasing, our y values are increasing. So that's that direct variation. Good job. It is also changing at that same rate. We want to make sure that when we are looking at this direct variation, we have that exact same rate for both of them. Direct variation, when my x increases or decreases, my y does the same at the exact same rate. So we said that my general form, as right here, is y equals k times x, and it tells us that our k is our constant of proportionality. And we can see here, as my x increases, so does my y. As my x stays the same, so does my y. As my x increases, so does my y. So we have a great example of that direct variation. Now the next variation that we look at is inverse variation. We look at inverse variation such that our x values increase as our y values decrease. So for an example of this, we look at cost for a group of theater students to attend the new theater opening is graphed to the left. We have x and y values. So let's just study this graph for a minute. For 20 students, it says they're paying $100 a ticket. For 40 students, we're paying about $79, $80 a ticket. For 60 students, we're paying right at $30 a ticket. So as we look, we're going 70 students for 25, and if we have 100 students, we're paying 10. As our y values increase the number of students, therefore our ticket amounts are decreasing. Sometimes we call that, we get a discount. The more people we have going somewhere, we get that discount on the price of whatever we're doing. This is a great example of that. That inverse variation is telling us the more people we have going, the less all of us together are going to pay for those ticket prices. Good job. So let's look. The general form equation for inverse variation is this. We either have y equals k, which is my constant of proportionality, times 1 over x, or it's y equals k over x. We know k is our constant of proportionality. In the previous slides, we saw as more number of students attended the opening, the less the tickets were for each person that was attending. So as my x got larger, my y amount came down. All right, so let's do some practice on these. Let's see what we have learned so far. Consider the following equation. Is an example of direct or inverse variation. For me to figure out if it is a direct or an inverse, I need to get my y by itself. You always want to make sure you're getting that y by itself. So let's look at this first one. 12 equals yx. So I'm going to get my y by itself by dividing both sides by my x. So y equals 12 over x. And what did we say when we had our y equal that 12 over x? We said it was my inverse variation. Good job. Let's look at b. It says x equals 3y. Now we do have x by ourselves, but that's not what we're looking for when we're looking for that general formula. That general formula is telling me to get the y by itself. So what are we going to do here? I've got x equals 3y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. So then I have y equals x over 3. Now, what do we see there? My x is on top and my constant of proportionality is on the bottom. Therefore, I'm going to have a direct variation. All right, pause the video for a minute and everybody try C and then come back. All right, let's see. My y is on the bottom, so I'm dividing by my y. So for me to get my y off the bottom or out of the denominator, I'm going to have to multiply that y on both sides of my equation. So let's look. So I'm multiplying y here, and I'm multiplying y here. So I've got 3y equals x. So now, still need to get that y by itself, so I'm going to divide by 3, and y equals x over 3. So it is going to be direct. Good job. Let's see those different steps that we've used. Make sure that we're paying attention to what our general forms are looking like. Let's go to our next slide. All right, so it says the following equation is a blank variation. Y equals 7 over x. Now, my constant of proportionality is in my numerator, so when we looked at those different equations, or those different forms, when my constant of proportionality was in the numerator and my x is in my denominator, what did we say that variation was? Exactly right. It's inverse. It's the inverse variation. Very good. You've got to make sure that you can analyze and look and notice what those general forms look like. Let's go to our next one. Time for you to master. Now what I want you to do here is pause the video. You and your table partner or you by yourself work these, answer the questions, and then come back and see what we've got. All right? When I look at this first one, I have my constant of proportionality, which is -5 on top, and my x on the bottom. So what do we say this variation is? Exactly right. It is my inverse variation. The next one has y over x equals 14 times 2. Well, for me to have the general form, I must get my y by itself. It must look something similar to this. So what do we say this one is? Let's work it. So since my x is on the bottom, I'm going to have to multiply both sides by my x, leaving me y equals 14.2x. And obviously, that is going to be my direct variation. Now, let's look at the next one. Still need to get that y by itself. So what I'm going to do, there's multiple ways to do this. You can either multiply or divide, whichever way works for you. I'm going to multiply my y on both sides. So I have x equals 2y. Need to get that y by itself, so I'm going to divide by 2. Y equals x over 2. When I have that y equals x over 2, I'm going to have that direct variation. Now let's look at a word problem where we have to figure out which one it is. The cost per ticket at the movies is $12 per seat. So how could I look at that? So I've got y equals 12 times per seat. So which one would that be? You're right. It's going to be direct variation. So let's look and make sure that we have got all of these by ourselves. Yep, we do. Good job. All right. Some things we need to remember. We need to remember that direct variation is where my x is changing at a rate, my y is changing at that same rate, or my x is decreasing at a rate, my y is decreasing at that same rate. Need to remember that that inverse, as one is increasing, the other is decreasing, and vice versa. We also need to remember that the constant of proportionality is what we are multiplying. It's also, we have heard it be called the slope. So we need to make sure that we are understanding what all these terminologies are and how they look inside these equations. I'm so glad you came to learn here with us at MPB. Thank you. I am Ms. Killen.